Have you ever had one of those pains that just makes no sense? You know, an ache that sticks around forever, long after an injury should have healed? Or maybe a sharp pain that just pops up out of nowhere? Well, you're definitely not alone. And it turns out the whole story we've been telling ourselves about why we hurt might be completely wrong. So let's just dive right into it. We're going to explore this really fascinating paradox, and it's one that could seriously challenge everything you think you know about the connection between your pain and what's actually happening in your body. You know, for decades, the logic seemed pretty simple, right? If you feel pain, something in your body must be broken or torn or damaged. But what if it's not that simple? What if that whole equation is just off? This very question is at the heart of a huge revolution in how we understand chronic pain. Okay, take a look at this. This is a real-world example from a 72-year-old gardener named Alan who had this awful, debilitating pain in his right shoulder. So his doctor orders MRIs on both shoulders, and the results, well, they were really interesting. The MRI showed a partial tear in his painful right shoulder. Okay, that makes sense. But it also showed a nearly identical tear in his completely pain-free left shoulder. How on earth is that possible? In Alan's case, isn't some one-off fluke. I mean, clinicians see this kind of thing all the time. This quote just nails the paradox perfectly. You get MRIs of people with zero back pain, and they've got bulging discs. You see athletes with major tissue damage and no symptoms at all. The evidence is just staring us in the face. Pain and tissue damage are not the same thing. So this brings us to a really crucial point. We need a new way of thinking. The old story was all mechanical. You know, the issue is in the tissue. There's a broken part and we need to fix it. But the new science, it's neurological. It reframes pain as an output from the brain, a protective system that's just gone into overdrive. The issue isn't just the tissue anymore. It's how your nervous system is interpreting everything. And to really get this, we've got to go right to the source, the brain. We're going to look at how the brain actually creates a map of your body, and more importantly, what happens when that map starts to get blurry. So the key concept we have to understand is something called afferentiation. Just think of it like a constant river of data flowing from every single part of your body, your muscles, your joints, your skin, all flowing up to your brain. This data stream is what tells your brain where your body is and what it's doing. Now, when we move our bodies in all sorts of different ways, walking, stretching, lifting things, we send this rich, high-quality stream of data up to the brain. This creates a really sharp, detailed, and accurate map of the body. The brain knows exactly what's going on, no confusion. But what happens when we stop moving so much? When we sit for hours on end or just do the same repetitive thing over and over? Well, that data stream, it becomes weak. It gets monotonous. The brain starts getting really poor quality information, and its map of that body part literally starts to get smudged, disorganized, and blurry. And this gets to the brain's number one job, keeping you safe. When your brain gets fuzzy, unclear data, it can't be sure what's really happening down there. So it interprets all that uncertainty as a potential threat. And what's its go-to response to a threat? It creates a protective output. And that output is pain. This just completely changes the game. Pain isn't just a signal that something is damaged. It's a behavior that the brain uses to get you to stop using a body part that it can no longer see clearly. It's almost like a low usage alarm bell, going off because it's just not getting enough good information to feel safe. This all leads to such a powerful shift in mindset. Instead of seeing ourselves as having a degenerated, broken down body, we can start to see it as being in a state of, neurological deconditioning. It's not permanently damaged. It's just out of practice. So how does this actually happen neurologically? Well, it's basically a cascade effect. A sedentary lifestyle means less movement. That leads to fewer action potentials. Those are the electrical signals from your nerves. Fewer signals mean your cells produce less energy, or ATP, and that results in your muscles getting tired and unstable, leaving your body totally vulnerable. And that is exactly why something totally trivial, like bending down to pick up a jar of pickles, can suddenly cause excruciating pain. The pickle jar wasn't the real problem. The problem was weeks, months, or maybe even years of neurological starvation that left the back unstable and unprotected. The brain, with its blurry map, just completely overreacted to a simple movement that it saw as a massive threat. So if the problem is neurological, then the solution has to be neurological too. And this is where modern treatments are totally shifting their focus.
away from trying to fix the part and towards rebooting the entire system.
The old goal was always to find and fix the so-called broken part, the torn tendon, the bulging disc. But the new goal is so much more fundamental. It's to restore that afferentation. The whole focus is on sending a flood of high-quality sensory information back to the brain to clear up that blurry map.
Let's take a common therapy, like a chiropractic adjustment. From this new perspective, it's not really about putting a bone back in place. That high-velocity movement creates a massive surge of nerve signals. It fires up thousands of these specialized little sensory receptors in your joints and muscles, and that sends a huge burst of clear, crisp data straight to the brain.
Some of these neurological therapies take it even further. They might use electrical stimulation to deliver up to 500 pulses per second. I mean, that is an intense bombardment of sensory input. And it's all designed to wake up those dormant connections and basically force the body to talk to the brain again. And the result of this data flood is pretty profound. The brain gets this overwhelming amount of new, high-quality info. It's basically forced to update its old, blurry map. And as that map gets clearer and more detailed, the brain's perception of threat starts to go way down. And when the threat level drops, so does the pain.
So, what does all this actually mean for you? Well, it really boils down to a simple but super powerful path forward. Reframe, remap, and relearn.
Okay, so first, you have to reframe how you think about this. Your pain isn't a life sentence of degeneration. It's a signal from an overprotective nervous system. You're deconditioned, not broken. Second, you remap. This is the active part, using specific therapies and new kinds of movements to just bombard your brain with good data and redraw that internal body map. And finally, you have to relearn. You have to gradually and safely reintroduce movements to rebuild the brain's trust, proving to it that it's safe to move again without setting off alarms. You're basically renegotiating with your own nervous system. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. This new science is asking us to completely rethink what it even means to heal. It suggests that for so many of us dealing with chronic pain, the most powerful path to getting better isn't about finding and fixing a broken part, but about having a much better conversation with the one thing that's truly in control, your brain.